All right. Hey, everyone. We are live on the Love Your Life podcast. I have with me today Linda Mahns, who is my very, very good friend from Vermont, and I cannot wait to share her with you guys. Linda has a really, really amazing background in all kinds of energy healing and nutrition, and she's just a really, really all-encompassing individual, and I can't wait for her to share a little bit more about what she does, but also about her journey with Lyme disease and thyroid disorders and different things that she's been going through the last year or so that I've known her. Linda and I actually got connected through essential oils. Of course, I feel like everybody that's amazing in my life, well, most of the time anyway, has come some way from the oils, either hearing them or just getting connected through friends of friends and different things. So it's been a really, really amazing journey, and I get to get connected to so many amazing people. So before we dive right into getting to hear all about your journey, Linda, tell me what your morning routine usually looks like. Like, what did it look like this morning?
Okay, but first I want to say thanks. I'm so happy to see your smiling face. You're so wonderful, and get to work with you and things. You always say and do just the right things. It's been such a pleasure and an honor to get to know you and work with you. So thank you. My morning routine. Well, I start and end the day in gratitude. I like to, before I even get out of bed, think about 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. And likewise, when I'm getting ready for bed, I like to put in the same kind of thought thing. What am I grateful for? So that I can start the day and end the day in gratitude. It's very important to me. And it kind of helps to set the tone and create the intention for the day. I notice if I don't, like if I wake up having a bad dream or feel groggy or whatever, and I don't do that, I can be a little, I can feel grumpy, or I can feel like off kilter in some way. So I like to start out that way. And then I usually go downstairs. I try to ease into the day. So I try to get my want-tos done first, because I have my whole day set. I'm a solo parent, and I have 2 teenagers, and I kind of running all around, busy all the time. So there's a lot of have-tos in my world. So I like to do the want-tos first. So sometimes it includes some stretching. Sometimes it includes some chanting. Sometimes it's incense. Sometimes it's oil in the diffuser. I like to just kind of start the day that way if I can, if I'm not too harried. And then I like to just kind of chill out with either tea or coffee, and just kind of mellow start out the day. I think about all the things that I have to do. I make lists, but I give myself like a couple hours before I have to get out the door and do stuff, so that I can do that first.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I adore you, because you're so fly by the seat of your pants. It's kind of just like whatever your body wants, you give it, you know, and there's no structure really. There's just the time. I think a lot of times we get so rigid in kind of like what you said, your have-to list. Like even when it comes to your morning routine, well, I have to do this and I have to do that. Well, then it becomes so like constricting and so rigid, that I like that you give the time, you know, those 2 hours, whatever it is, and it just looks the way that it's going to look that day. And it might look completely different than any other day.
Yeah. Some days I'm cooking if I have the time and inclination. Sometimes I'm just sitting back and trying to read something or catch up on something. There's a, you know, this kind of started because of young kids. You know, there's times when you have young kids that you don't have to even take a shower, you know, and so trying to get your meals in and trying to get all of your self-care in, it just sort of started as a habit. And that was one of my kids that just walked by.
Hi, Em.
Say hi.
Hello.
Oh, I just lost the sound to you.
Oh, I said it was good to see the face, because I hear about her all the time.
Yeah.
Yay!
I love her.
So, Linda, tell me a little bit about your background, because I know you have so many different, you're like my octopus. Like you have so many different arms going in so many different directions, but they're all interlaced together. Like there's one core that's you, but you have all these different modalities, different skills, different things. Tell me about you in that way, but also what brought you to all that? Like, what was your journey like?
Let's see. 24 years old, and my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer that they said no matter if she did something or not, she was going to have a 2-year prognosis, which turned out to be a 10-month start to finish for her. And she was not a smoker. She was not working in factories or anything. So at the time, the doctors were like, we don't know how this happened for you, because there was no family history of cancer. And she had it in her lungs, and it had metastasized by the time they found it. And at the same time that happened, I call them my surrogate family, these Sicilians that I grew up with. If I wasn't at my house, I was at their house, kind of a thing, particularly over the summers. Their dad had a lifetime of diabetes, and so his health had a turn for the worse. So he had things like kidney failure and, cataracts, and was losing limbs and things. So at the time that this was happening with my mother, it was happening across the street with my surrogate dad. So there was a lot of lessons in this, and what it taught me was, they taught me strength, they taught me grace. Mr. Shubra would be outside as much as possible, soaking in the sunshine, just wanting to get as much of the day of his loves in as he could. And my mother had, her own, she had a full surrendering to what was going on. And what I also noticed with my mother was that her quality of life really plummeted to 0. So, and I watched them go in and out of hospitals, and, it was, at 24, it's like the brain is just starting to turn on the frontal cortex, so I was like waking up to seeing, a lot of discomfort and a lot of suffering. And I thought, a lot of these things are not in our control, but what can I do to help my quality of life so that I can be here and enjoy the sunshine and enjoy, all the graces that are around, and try to keep myself healthy in the process. So, there's so many more lessons to that, but that's what got me started in food and plants as medicine. I was big into homeopathy to start out with, and I just kept reading. How much could I read and read and read? And I was doing, I learned about herbs, like echinacea for immune building and golden seal when you have a cold. And I was implementing these things. I was in my final year of college, and was just trying to try it and play around with it. I was a vegetarian too, so I was trying to just change bits of my diet and see if it made a difference. So then fast forward, my having 2 children and my own in 2 years time, and I'm tired and I'm working from home and I'm taking care of an infant and a toddler, and I'm just run ragged and I'm not feeling well. And I was needing energy, but not having energy. And so then it was like, remember those things that you studied back then, now it's time to really put them into practice. So that I went gangbusters. I did raw vegan. That's when I started raw vegan. My daughter was just a few months old. She's now 17. So I did about 13 years raw vegan experiment with myself to see how, if I changed my diet, if I ate more fresh fruits and vegetables, what would it do? And I did it only with myself because I didn't want to do anything too drastic with my kids. And I thought, and then, after a while I was like, wow, I'm so scared of fruits and vegetables. It's like the conditioning that we have of like, you have to eat this way and only this way. and you need milk for calcium, and you need, you need to have protein in every meal, and blah, blah, blah. And so it was in my own health crisis that I started to change what I did. And then that brought me to, let's see, where else did I go with this? Then I started making my own tinctures, and I started growing my own food, and I started teaching raw vegan to people. I opened up a cafe, and eventually that let me have, I gained a master's in holistic health. And then I also started doing core shamanism. Like, all these things were kind of happening. It was like whenever there was a need in myself and in my family and people around me, I just wanted to delve deeper and learn more about it. So I got into the energy medicine of core shamanism, and that tied in, and I was studying it with the master's program. So it was like research-based. Everything was research-based, which was like, oh, this is amazing, And so I kind of dubbed myself a life doula, because I like to help myself and others live their best, most juicy life. That was what my master's thesis was on, was creating a program called The Journey to Juiciness. So that's what I did. And then I thought about life and death and doula. Like, we don't have operating instructions on how to live well, how to die well. And so, then all this work with the shamanism has brought me into a place of, now I'm studying end of life doula. It's a certification program, so that I can add that to my little bag of tricks.
And that's, you know what, honestly, Linda, that's what I love so much about you, is because you do have such an eclectic bag of tricks. Like, you're not just a shaman, you're, a life doula. You're also now a death doula, and like all these different things. And for those of you who aren't familiar with death doulas, it's actually something that I've been learning a little bit about, mostly from Linda. And we're going to do a separate podcast on what a death doula is, what she does, how that, because I feel like even when you just say the name death doula, it sounds so morbid.
I know.
But it's such a beautiful thing. Like, it is for people who are in hospice care and who are dying, and for the families and the caregivers, like this niche of service is so needed. It's so amazing. I was actually just at a cancer support center today. I was talking with them about doing vision board workshops and different things, and we were talking about the death doula, and they were just blown away. They're like, yeah, we've heard of it, we think it's amazing, all this stuff. It's just that those wordings can be a little bit of a can throw you off a little bit, but it's amazing that all of these things kind of come together for you, because this last year you've gotten rocked.
Yeah.
In more than one way. So will you kind of take us through everything that's kind of happened? And it's ironically, and I'm trying not to take offense to it, because it's all been since I've known you, since we met. But take us through your journey and through what's happened in the last year, what's shown up, just kind of everything.
Yeah, that saying, like, how bad do you want it? Like, when you want something so bad that the universe starts poking you and say, really, how bad do you want this? Let's just see, because I'm like, I've been trying to steer my boat in this direction. I had a business that, I really cast this wide net, and I wanted to focus it more on like helping people individually and families and businesses, like to create a model of new normal. Like, what is our new normal, and how can I bring that to businesses so that they can make a model of in the communities and the families, in this way. I guess it's a socioeconomic model that you work large and then it trickles down in this way. Although I don't like that phrase, trickle down. But anyway, so I've been wanting to focus on, like, okay, I'd like to get into businesses and institutions and organizations. I dabbled in it with my business, but I really want to focus in it. And that's when I met you and was like, okay, I can help you. I can, we can work with the oils, which has been playing such a big part of my health and wellness protocol in my life. it just seems to like tie in so nicely. And I've been like, I know I'm jumping around, but I've been amazed by it because it's one of the last things that I've really been focusing on. Like it's always been in the periphery. I've used them a little bit, but now it's like medicine. I'm using it as medicine. I'm like, isn't that amazing? Like, why wasn't that the first thing? For most people, that's the first thing. But for me, it's like had to come all the way around. But I digress. so it's like back this late fall and early winter, I was doing a yoga certification, doing a lot of hot yoga. And I was also working for a place that was doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And for me, I was like, ooh, I get to try oxygen therapy. This would be awesome, you know, like a little perk. And when I was doing that, I was feeling worse, which is not supposed to happen, right? So I was like talking to the lady going, what's this all about? And the physician that works there was like, oh, have you ever been tested for Lyme? Because usually when we see people that get worse from oxygen therapy at first, it's Lyme related. So no, I've never been tested for Lyme. And so I'm still moving on and doing things and getting worse and worse. And it started with hyperthyroid. So I had a enlarged thyroid that I went to specialists and MDs and NDs, and I got tested for everything under the sun. It wasn't anything, thank God. You know, they did the ultrasound. There was nothing to worry about. They just said probably a virus, and it'll go as fast as it came. It's uncomfortable now, but you know, they were basically the thyroid specialist actually wanted me to take radiation pills just as a, well, let's see what this might do, because I didn't have anything specific that he could say it's, you know, it's Graves' disease or it's Hashimoto's. It wasn't anything like that. And so he was like, well, we could try it and see. And I was like, I'm not going to wound my thyroid just on the chance that it may help. And he was actually interested in getting like information, the data from that. So I was like a guinea pig for something. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Thank you.
You know? So I was like, do you know who you're talking to? But anyway, so the thyroid cleared up. And what I did with that was I was putting lemongrass essential oil and myrrh and frankincense externally and taking frankincense internally, you know. And at the time he wanted to do an ultrasound, and they're like, I don't know if you've had, I think you have had, right, Misty, you've had some thyroid stuff that you've had. Have you ever had an ultrasound on your thyroid?
I have, yeah, I have Graves' disease. So I've had a couple ultrasounds just to make sure there's no nodules or anything. And luckily mine have all been clear.
Yeah. Well, you know then that they push really hard and for a long, long time, this, you know, with all the goop, and then they're using the machine. It's not comfortable because it's right on your throat. So when my thyroid was so large, it hurt, like to touch it. And every time they tried to touch it, I would like, get away from me. And I did not want to have that ultrasound. So I had it scheduled for like a week or something. And I put all these oils on, and the inflammation reduced enough that they could do it. And I was not in pain. So that was the miracle number one for me to experience. But then, you know, the whatever it was that got here moved down to my lungs, and I had walking pneumonia. So I was with walking pneumonia for quite a while, and it was like, you know, it was getting like right and left hooks while I'm trying to like navigate through what am I going to do now, and how am I going to work this out and get all my bucket list stuff done with yoga and this and that, you know. And I don't know if you remember, like sleep was not happening for me at the time for all this. So I was like waking up at like 4 a.m, I was like, I have energy now, so I'm going to do things for myself now before I have to go to work later, and just trying to work it out. So I was using colloidal silver. I was working with a naturopath to help with all these, the viral, the bacterial, and the fungal side of what was going on with my immune system. Everything was just went haywire. Got a Lyme test. The Lyme test came back positive, like double positive. And I was like, wow, I really go all out when I do something, So he put me on antibiotics and like a super heavy course of antibiotics. And of course, for just about everybody, antibiotics wrecks the gut, and makes that horrific. So after, I think I was on it for a month, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, we have to come up with some other approach, because this isn't helping me. And remember, it's about my quality of life. I need to be able to function. I want to be able to function as best as I can. So we went on he has me on some supplements, and he puts me on tinctures that are antibacterial. But I've gone ahead and made myself all these kinds of things. So I found like everything that was going on with me and oils that would help. And I made my own, and I used the veggie caps to put them in, because there's a lot of hot oils in here, and I don't want to just put them in water and drink them down. So I take them with the veggie caps. And I've just recently added the Litzy, because my God, that came. This is for lungs. I mean, this is for lots of stuff, but this is for lungs. So,
yeah. Hey, Linda, real quick, since some people are going to be listening to this on the podcast, could you explain what you just held up for everybody?
Oh, sure. I held up Litzy. I held up doTERRA Litzy.
That and the other, the bottle with the tincture.
The other bottle. This is something that I made. It has rosemary and clove. It has On Guard. It has black pepper, oil of oregano, cinnamon, orange, cumin, tangerine, thyme, melissa, copaiba. Yep, and that goes around and around and around. So this is my own little, like, I looked at the book. What is this? Essential Life. And this one has a Lyme protocol in it. And I was reading through this. I was reading through a lot of things online as well, and trying to figure out what may help. I was dabbing. I still do on occasion put patchouli at the bottom of my feet, because that's supposed to assist with the nervous system. And it does. It actually does. So if I'm feeling like, part of the stuff with Lyme and with the thyroid is this jittery kind of, there's aches and pains that come and they kind of migrate. But there's this like nervous system overload. So the patchouli at the bottom of the feet helps with that. And it's like, that helps me more times than not. Like, if I'm out somewhere and I don't know, like things just don't feel right, I put that on and it helps immediately. So let's see. So yeah. So, and then, I'm going to show now, this is part of a lotion that I've made, and then it has oils in it. There's things like helichrysum in it, and there's some ginger. These are all like for pain and inflammation, and I get out of the shower and I slather that on if I'm feeling things come up with that. Then I do that. I have been taking Manuka honey, and that's helpful for when there's fungal stuff going on. And it's really how I feel. So I don't necessarily take these things daily. I seem to run kind of naturally every couple weeks with things, and then I'm feeling really good, and so I don't take them. And then as if things are like, if I'm over worked or overstressed or something, and I'm starting to feel like, or if I'm traveling, let's say, and it feels like my immune system is speaking to me, then I do On Guard and I do all these things to help to just kind of calm that down and prevent. I'm in this like preventive thing at the moment. This one, my friend Carol told me I got to try this one. This is Deep Blue. This is the polyphenol complex. And this has frankincense. It has, I'm going to say it wrong, curcuminoids. And that's derived from turmeric. That's the anti-inflammatory that's in turmeric, curcumin. There's ginger, there's green tea, pomegranate, grape, resveratrol, and then there's stuff to help with your stomach, because there's a lot of stuff that's like, if you didn't have things like ginger and stuff, it could be a lot. So this actually has helped when I'm like with the migrating pain that comes sometimes with Lyme. One day it's your shoulder that hurts, another day it's a hip, another day it's this, and there's no real understanding because you didn't knock in anything, you didn't do any, weird overstretching or overexercise. It just is there. So that stuff really, that helps quite a lot.
Yeah, I have a question for you, actually. So more and more lately, I feel like I've been hearing more and more cases of people coming down with, or contracting, or whatever you want to call it, Lyme. Do you have an opinion why that might be? Like, why it's more prevalent now than maybe it was before? Like, do you think it's just gone undiagnosed so much before, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. I talked with my naturopath about this. He's a Lyme literate guy, and Lyme tends to be like this mimicker. It's the great mimicker. It could be, there's people that think they've gone through their lives and they've had, fibromyalgia, or they've had MS, or they've had this, or this, and they turned out that they have Lyme underneath it. So it sort of complicates what's going on. But what he said to me, which was interesting, was that it doesn't need to come from a burrowing tick, which I had always thought it needed to come from a burrowing tick. And he said that it's, if the nymphs, which are the babies, if they have it in them and they go biting, it can look like a mosquito bite, he said, but they could be infecting with Lyme. So it's not burrowing. There's also, I think, preliminary research on it, it can be in husbands and wives, and it can be transferred to their kids as well. But I don't know more about that. I'm really relaying what he said to me, and it's something that I would want to look more on. But it was really fascinating to me, because I was like, why is this happening to me all of a sudden? And he said, you could have had this for a while, and then conditions just made it right to come out. Or you could have gotten it because we've had warmer winters here in Vermont, that maybe there was a mosquito that was, not a mosquito. Oh, actually, though, he did say that mosquitoes can carry it too in some regions. So he said, but maybe there was a tick that, who knows? Basically, they don't know.
Which is always the best answer, right?
Yeah, I know. It's like, why? And well, we don't know why. We can just try to help you to feel good.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the diagnosis process for someone who thinks, they're listening to you and they're listening to your story and your symptoms and different things, and they're going, man, just on a preventative measure, I would just like to get tested. Like, what does that testing process look like? Is that just like a simple blood test?
It's a blood test, but if you were to do, how I understand it also is that there's only a couple of blood tests on the market that have higher rate of how do you say that? Like I wanted to say efficacy rate, but it's not that. It's that it has a higher percentage of coming out accurately. So if you were to go to your primary care or the hospital to get a routine Lyme test, the accuracy of it is so low that you could have Lyme, but it would read as you don't. So there's, it's Mercy Labs out of California, and it's an IGenix test, IGENIX, and that is a out-of-pocket blood test. And you have to find a naturopath who uses that lab, and go to him or her and get that blood test done. It's an expensive test, and they can also test from that lab for co-infections. And that's also a big chunk of change to do that. And it takes like, I think, a month or something to get the results, several weeks. And even with that, it's not a high accuracy rate. It's maybe like 50 or 60% accurate, but it's the best one that we have so far. Yeah. So there's a lot of controversy around it because there's some doctors that don't believe in Lyme. They will only treat it if you have the bullseye, and if conditions are like you come in and you see the bullseye and all that stuff. You may never have a bullseye, is what the naturopath told me. So it would be good to research and look and figure it out and talk with your doctor and see what makes the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So take me through emotionally, like all the emotions that sort of came up during your journey through all of this, through Lyme and the thyroid and the aches and all and the sleeplessness, and what emotions sort of were you dealing with? Because we talk a lot about health concerns and different things and underlying emotions that actually exacerbate them or bring out something else, or different things. So take us through that piece of it.
Yeah, it's a frustrating process, and if you talk to anybody that's dealt with Lyme, there's ups and downs to how you feel. Some days you feel good and you feel like, oh, I'm on top of it, and then other days you're like, oh, it's like it feels like it's crushing in and around you. So I mean, that is that's challenging. So there's frustration. For some, there's kind of a grief in a way, because there's like you're grieving the loss of your health, even on a temporary basis. There's a feeling of sometimes feeling like it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do. And I've talked to a lot of people that they run the gamut of things. Some are angry and some are apathetic, like why bother doing anything, because there's no cure, there's no this, there's no that. For myself, when days were bad, I kicked into mindfulness practice. So I can say that I'm grateful for the tools in my tool belt, because I pulled on every reserve at times, because there's times when you're so physically tired that it's hard to just move, and yet something has to come from within to get you to do the things that you have to do. It's like I have to take care of my house and my kids and my work, and I want to. So what can I do about that? So yeah, that it was the kind of like trying to reframe it. What can I learn about this? What is it teaching me? What and it has lots and lots to teach me. What is it showing me, and how can I dance with this? How can I see it as a dance? That's been the major lesson for me in this, because there's no finish line with just about anything we do in life. It's not like you reach the end and you're like, okay, I'm done. I don't have to do that anymore. It's like we have to keep moving forward and trying and do. So how can I make this a dance instead of something that is, cumbersome and something that will like drag me down, instead of seeing it as like all the negative, or I should say not useful. It's what can I find that's useful about Lyme or other autoimmune problems? What can I find that's useful here? And if nothing else, I have a greater understanding and awareness for suffering for people. It's like, and I didn't really realize, I knew a lot of people that had Lyme, but I didn't really realize to the extent that it can really feel terribly hard, terribly isolating, terribly challenging at times. And so then, now I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it definitely gives you a new awareness of everything. And that's the next piece I have is kind of a two-parter. So for people who are dealing with Lyme or other autoimmune issues, what kind of resources would you recommend? Maybe things that you used during your journey or things that you found that were useful? And also, how are you partnering with your body now going forward? Now that you kind of know what's going on with your body, things that you can kind of do to minimize the symptoms, help your body heal itself, all that. Tell us everything.
Let's see. I think I would be leery about online searches, because you have to know what the source is. If you can look at something and it can show you the source of where the information was coming from, then that's a good starting place. But doing things like a lot of people look at, they'll do Google searches and they'll look at like either health forums where people are just writing about their experiences, which there's nothing wrong with that, but they're if you're looking to see about like, well, what is the usual protocol for like the allopathic route for doing Lyme treatments, what's the naturopathic route, then I would want to go and find more widely known and respected sorts of websites as a starting point. If you have a trusted doctor, then absolutely talk to your doctor. I love to offer myself as a resource for advocacy. I can help a person point them in the direction of maybe where do you want to go, what works for you. I like to work with where people are instead of trying to manipulate or change or shift too much. If a person wants to do only allopathic, all right, I can help you with this, and we can do things to help assist, to help a person feel more on top of their health. And then the other part of your question, you'll have to tell me again what it was.
Oh, no worries. Actually, you're already going into the part 3 of the question. But part 2 was, what are you doing now, like from this point forward, to partner with your body to help it heal itself, help it feel its best, all of that?
Yeah. I eat a really good diet, and I have for almost 2 decades. I choose an anti-inflammatory diet. My whole practice since I was 24 was trying to get in tune with myself. So before my body is screaming, I can listen while it's whispering. So, because recently, like thyroid thing was starting to feel like it was happening again, I just get right on it. Like I don't wait until things get really, really big. Now that I know what's going on, I like to address the things and listen. I feel like, and I believe that there's a guidepost in all of us, and you can call it your inner guru, you can call it, whatever, your inner teacher, the knowing that's inside that says, this is what I need you to listen, please listen to me, please do this. And what I like to do is help people to start to listen, because, most of us grew up on a SAD diet, standard American diet. And so there's a lot of processed foods in there. There's a lot of things that we're frankly addicted to. And so if you're trying to learn to listen, you don't know who you're listening to. Are you listening to the addiction? Are you listening to what are you listening to? So it's like, how can I help a person to do more of a whole foods diet and get things cleared up so they can start to listen and tune in through meditation, through food, through, whatever seems to work. We would try many different protocols to see what works. So they can learn to tune in and go, oh, when I feel this is what it is. It's this discovery process. So I've been doing this now for a long time, and I like to help people learn to do that for themselves.
Yay. I love what you said. Actually, when you first started talking about this, you said, I love to listen to my body whisper before it screams. Yeah. I think that's so true. And I've never actually heard it put like that. I love that. I was actually writing it down as you were saying it. I was like, that's genius. That's amazing. That should be your tagline, actually, now that we're talking about this. But, I know you were talking a little bit about the services and things that you offer, the classes that you teach. Tell us a little bit more about what it is that you offer, how you offer it, how people can get a hold of you, in touch with you.
Okay. So right now I have a website that's bt-fiddle.com. And I was just talking to somebody today about possibly doing a different website that's more geared towards the coaching and the helping and supporting. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, you can get to me through the website, through Facebook. I'm on Facebook as myself, Linda Mahns. I have a Bliss Facebook page and a Vermont Fiddleheads Facebook page, and contacts all throughout. But I can meet with a person individually, or a family, or a group. And usually how it starts is asking them what are their top 3 goals. What are they looking to do with their health or their life? How do they want to shift their lifestyle? And how might I be of assistance? So I like to kind of cast wide nets. I can help a person with menus. I can help them help themselves. I've done things where I've made food for people who are local. I've also worked, I had a woman in Alaska that I was doing these little videos things with her to help her, manage her life and what she was looking to do. I can do I used to do, and I'd like to start again. I do a 7-day, 14, 21, and 30-day. I used to call them challenges, and I like calling them challenges, even though people are like, ooh, I don't want to be challenged. But my thought is, if we have a challenge, we have a goal, and we can set it, and then we can celebrate at the end. So in a 5-day challenge, we would set up a time to meet and have support with a direction and a goal for those 5 days, or 7 days rather, to start a new habit. And so I would help the person along the way to do that habit. They say it takes 21 days to make a new habit. It's, I think, longer, but but I can do a 21-day challenge or a 30-day challenge to just really kind of assist. And really, it's I don't know, maybe you can help me figure out the best way to say this, but I have done phone consults and in-person consults, and I've done these bigger things where we create menus with the support. I've certainly done workshops for people. I've done classes for people. I really like to, like I say, cast a wide net to see what's going to work, what gels with a person. Say, I want to meet with you and I want you to come to my work and do like a little thing with my staff on showing them how to, make their own nut milk or do a green smoothie or something along those lines. Does that make sense? That was very wordy.
No, I love it so much. That's amazing. It's a whole bunch of different ways that people can work with you, even if they're not local to you. So that's amazing. Yeah. So before we wrap up, there's one last question I want to ask you.
Okay.
So if you could have one holistic modality or anything in general, really, taught in schools besides oils, what would it be?
It would definitely be some form of energy medicine or like the core shamanism, because that's really about learning about your own power and learning about your own healing abilities and your intuition, working with helping spirits and knowing that they're there. I think a lot of people have a gut response to something, or they know before something happens, and we kind of deem all that as like, oh, you're just crazy or whatever. But if it's taught to say this is normal, this is around us and here to help us, and even the trees talk to us, and the plants and the animals and the birds, they're all communicating. We can learn how to listen and work with all of this energy and power in a way that's like helpful and non-harming. I think that would be my class. Like, yeah, I would totally think that that's good.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so needed, and I think that would be a really, really amazing addition to any school, really. So, okay, I appreciate you so much for popping on with us and sharing all your amazing knowledge and your journey and all the things that you've done to help partner with your body to heal itself and really create a different life from something that was pretty traumatic, and very, very insightful and very inspiring to people who are struggling with these kinds of illnesses, even if it's not Lyme, even if it's, another autoimmune disorder or something else. Just being able to draw from somebody else that's walked that walk is huge. And I'm excited to have you back when we talk all about the death doula and what that is, and how someone could actually really utilize this in their journey, caregivers, different patients that are in transition, different things. I'm really, really excited. And I'm excited to learn about it more myself. So that's going to be super exciting. So I appreciate you so much, and looking forward to having you back.
Thank you, Misty.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Alrighty.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.